I'm Leah Wilks, and I'm originally from Hillsborough, North Carolina, and then I'm based out of Durham now after living in New York and California for a while. For a long time I thought modern dance was just kind of this weird art form where people were kind of flaily and were all black and lay on the floor, which is kind of funny to think that that's my career now. I think that really it's because it's how I best understand the world. I mean, it's kind of the first language that I ever learned. I feel more articulate in movement than I do in English. And I love choreographing and I love dance because you're able to be incredibly vulnerable and honest about things and still hide a little bit because it's not verbal and doesn't have to be linear, it doesn't have to be a specific story. So I like that ability to really say things. That my style choreographically very much comes from my dancers and who I'm working with. I start with questions. I'm never interested in answering things for people. I don't really want to tell a story. I don't want to do things linearly. I really like creating worlds and environments that start from a question and allow people to have their own experience inside of that. So I guess that's sort of my choreographic device. In terms of my movement, I mean, my education has been all over the place, and I think I'm into really big physical movement that has a really specific gestural work inside of it. And I really care way more about relationship on stage and presence on stage than I do about big flashy tricks. I mean, when I teach class, it's fun to teach that kind of stuff, and I like working with dancers who have all of those abilities to have that kind of physicality. I'm very upside down and in and out of the ground. But when it comes down to it, that may not be what's necessary for a particular piece. And so when I'm working with dancers, I'm looking for people who are really smart and have the ability to take a question or take a theme and extrapolate on that and pull it apart. And then I like taking what comes out of them and constructing it into something that creates a world. Generally they start from my head. Generally it's questions. I mean, generally I know it's the right time to do a piece when there's something that I don't know the answer to, something I feel confused about. That's when it's like, okay, well this is a good piece to be working on, because a big part of doing it is processing through those things and trying to figure out what my answers are, which generally don't become that much clearer. I never put myself in my own work, but I did it this time. The last time I put myself in my own work was my sophomore year of college, and I hate it because I'm very, very visual and things and very spatial, and I hate not being able to see what's going on the stage. The only situation in which I'll do it is for a solo, and so that's what I did for this. And I think this solo is not a lot of big crazy movement. It's not a dancey dance piece. That's not the point of it. It's not about satisfying the viewer, and I think for me it does actually connect into some really like deep parts of my psyche. So perhaps it is important that I'm the one performing it. It'd be curious to set it on someone else and see where they would take it. It's an interesting idea. I don't know. I wish I knew. With other pieces I work on, I think I sometimes have a better idea because they start from a more thematic place. So I'm curious in this piece about what it's emerged as being is a curiosity about what you do when you can't make sense of things. I like to make sense of everything. I think a lot of artists like to make sense of things. That's kind of why we do art, right? We take these really abstract emotions and things we're going through and experiences, and we make meaning out of them. And for me, what this piece has emerged as is what happens when you are in those situations where you can't make meaning. Like you can't, there's no takeaway message, there's no thing to allow you to move forward in your life and say like, yes, well this terrible thing happened, but man, I learned this lesson. You know, what happens when you can't do that, and what are you left with, and how do you still move?